live in Romania. This is Bucharest Radio Romania International. Listener's Letterbox.
Hello and welcome to Listener's Letterbox, the show in which we answer your queries, your comments, your letters, and anything you may have concern about regarding Radio Romania International. And we complain a lot that we don't have enough female listeners, but this is an exception because we got a brief letter from our good listener Misayo Tanaka, who hails from East Sussex in England and is 56 years old. And she writes, I was glad to have a good reception at the beginning, but sadly it's changed halfway. The latter half of your broadcast was a little hard to make out because of strong noise. However, I enjoyed different kinds of music content very much. The issue of microplastic and Think Greener was resonant to me because a few days before I had watched TV news about fiberglass found in oysters and mussels on the coast of England. Misayo Tanaka. Well, thank you very much for the message, and let's think of some answers. First order of business is the reception. We're glad you got us well at first, but then again, we have to remember that apparently every 11 years or so, there is a big flare up in solar activity, which puts a lot of radiation on the Earth, and that interferes with a lot of electric and electronic activity. That's a possibility. On the other hand, we are right next to a war zone in which cyber attacks and jamming are very common. So it's a possibility that all the electronic activity related to the war might have interfered with our transmissions. So that's another possibility. But these are just guesses. We're not exactly experts in electronics. We just want to bring you nice programming. Second order of business regarding the pollution issue, we are not familiar with the fiberglass pollution, but that would make sense. More and more fiberglass is used in communications networks and is most likely added a lot to the pollution, including the oceans. As you heard from Think Greener, in Romania, not unfortunately, but we have to deal much more with plastic pollution. As a personal experience, I went to the Danube Delta, which is supposed to be this pristine area of nature with plenty of birds and fish, and unfortunately, many canals that we went by boat to were full of plastic containers. That is a sad situation, but that being said, there are plenty of non-governmental organizations and the government, to a part, that try to deal with the issue of plastic pollution and garbage in general draining into the Danube Delta, which is a monument of nature. Thank you for pointing out the fiberglass pollution issue. We might look into it. And next, our good friend from Sweden, Christer Brunström, pointed us to an issue that is concerning all of us lately, and that is climate change. And he writes, in recent days, we have had very heavy rains causing flooding in certain parts of Sweden. I understand that Romania is now in the midst of a heat wave. Climate change seems to be impacting us all. Sadly, there are many political leaders who do not take this seriously. Well, sir, I unfortunately can confirm that we all have had this heat wave with red, orange, and yellow alerts all the time for severe heat. Over the last couple of weeks, we also fortunately got a couple of thunderstorms with a lot of rain that actually cooled things down a little bit, but that was completely insufficient. We're talking about 5 minutes over a couple of days. As opposed to Sweden, we have not had flooding, thank God. But the heat has been crippling, especially in Bucharest, where the high-rise buildings and all the asphalt have increased the temperature in town. We are talking of 40 degrees sometimes. We coped with it the best we could, and apparently over the last few days, the situation will improve, although only slightly. Thank you very much for your concern. And next we got a message from our good friend from England, Mr. Alan Gale, who wrote a pretty technical message, and I will quote it right here. He writes, "Sadly, this month's report is a bit of a non-report, as the recent changes to the DRM service have now made it impossible to hear anymore, since the version of the decoder that I use will not decode the newer xHE-AAC format that is now in use. In spite of my best efforts to get a modified version of the software to work, I have not been able to get it to decode your signal, even though it was very strong. And until someone comes up with a version that works, or someone over here starts selling DRM capable radios, I will be unable to listen to this service anymore. At the moment, you have to import the not very good quality ones from China, and I'm very reluctant to send any of my financial details over to that country anyway, if I can avoid it. I have been out a lot of the time when the AM broadcasts were being transmitted. But on the odd occasions when I was in the 1100 UTC broadcast at 17,630 kHz, it was very poor and very difficult to listen to much of the time. I just hope that propagation improves soon, or I can find a solution to the DRM decoding problem. I do think that 15 megahertz would have been a better choice than 17 megahertz, as that was always the best frequency in the past at this time of the year. Hopefully, I will have better news to report by my next month's report. Best regards to all for now, Alan." Well, Alan, we really appreciate your predicament, and we feel for you. Unfortunately for us in the English section, the technical details of our broadcasts are rather sketchy, and we are not sure what the change in the codec was. The decisions on frequencies and other technical details are made by a separate technical department. They are also approved at the highest level, and our higher management team is actually under the Committee of Culture in the Romanian Parliament, which is obviously well above our pay grade. But we will notify our higher-ups, and if a solution comes up from the technical department, we will definitely let you know, because we would be loath to lose you as a listener. Meanwhile, we wish you good luck with your shortwave reception. And at this point, it seems we don't have time for another message, but thank you for tuning in to Radio Romania International for listeners' letterbox coming at you from our studios in Bucharest. Thank you, and goodbye.
focus on Romania. Coming up next on Radio Romania International, Simply Folk.
Next program, we have a special traditional music offering with a star of 20.Jul folklore, Sirma Granzulea, who has been singing and composing Romanian folklore. And here she is with a special song.
And with that, our broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe has come to an end. You can listen to our next program at 20:30 hours UTC on 11975 kHz, as well as on the internet at www.rri.ro, channel 1. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write an email at engl@rri.ro. Goodbye.